Leo, today is not just another day. You're about to drown in blessings you didn't expect financially, emotionally, spiritually. Someone has been watching over you, and the final curse that's been haunting your lineage is breaking. You didn't land on this video by chance. The timing is too perfect. If you're listening to these words on September 19, or even if the message found you a little later, it's because you're ready. You're aligned enough to hear what's been waiting to reach you for years. This message isn't hype. It's a recognition of what your soul already knows. Something big is shifting. There's an energy moving today that doesn't knock gently. It arrives like a flood, not to destroy, but to saturate your life with the breakthrough you've secretly been praying for. I'm not talking about vague good luck or wishful thinking. I'm talking about an energetic turnaround so personal, so precise, that even the people who doubted you won't believe what they're about to witness. The moon is in its crescent phase, gliding into Libra. That alone is a powerful signal for balancing old karma and inviting financial harmony. But layered on top of that, the sun is forming a rare and revealing trine with Pluto. That's transformation with a capital T. If you felt stuck, blocked, or like you've been chasing success only to see it disappear, this is why. The energy that held you back wasn't laziness or bad luck. It was an ancestral weight that wasn't even yours to carry. Until now. You've been trying to move forward, but something kept pulling you back just when you were close. That tug? It's gone. The invisible chains? Snapped. The final curse, yes, the one that's been in your family for generations. The one that made you feel like abundance wasn't for you, is done. Broken. Released. Now, there's something else. Someone has been watching you. Not in a creepy way, this is sacred. Protective. They've been there in moments you thought you were alone. A soul who's walked beside you, perhaps in this life, perhaps in another. A guardian, a silent supporter, a spiritual ally. Maybe a grandparent who passed before you were born. Maybe a soulmate who hasn't entered fully yet. But they've been guiding you toward this moment, where money, love, and purpose align. I know that sounds dramatic, but you'll feel it in your gut if it's true for you. And if it is, then I'm asking you to stay with me. Not just for curiosity but for alignment. Because in this video, we're going to break this message down piece by piece. Why the money is coming now, who might be watching, and what this broken curse actually means for your future, your relationships, and your peace of mind. Let me take a moment to thank you. Your presence here means more than a view count. Every like, every comment, every subscription helps this message reach someone else who needs it. You're not just watching, you're part of something bigger. You're part of eternal mindfulness. And your energy matters. So before we go any further, pause and breathe with me. If what I'm saying resonates even just a little, drop a comment to confirm. Say, I receive this, or share what part hit home. That simple act anchors this energy deeper into your field. It's not for me. It's for you. To claim what's already yours. Leo, I hope you'll stay with me all the way through. Because what the universe is about to reveal to you today will shift everything. Are you ready? Let's begin. Leo, when I say you're about to be overwhelmed by abundance, I'm not talking about some distant dream. I'm talking about the kind of breakthrough that sneaks up quietly, then bursts open like a summer storm. You may not even realize how close you are to it, but the signs are all around you. There's a shift in the air, in your energy, in the way life has been arranging things behind the scenes. You've been walking uphill for so long, you probably forgot what it feels like when the path finally levels out. But trust me, the uphill part is done. What's coming now is flow. This isn't just about money, though money is absolutely part of it. It's about momentum. You've been doing the inner work, even when it felt like nothing was changing. You've been clearing, releasing, letting go. And the universe has been listening. Your energy or frequency has changed. That matters more than you might think. Because money isn't just paper, or numbers in a bank account. It's energy. And for energy to find you, you have to be resonating with it. What's shifted for you lately is not about external strategy, but internal alignment. And now that you're no longer pushing against yourself, abundance is finally free to find you. Astrologically, this is powerful. With the Sun forming a trine to Pluto today, we're not talking about surface-level rewards. We're talking about transformation. Pluto doesn't bring convenience, it brings rebirth. When this alignment hits, it shakes loose everything that no longer serves your highest potential. That old belief that you have to earn, love, or struggle for success. Gone. That family pattern of financial scarcity passed down like an unwanted heirloom? Dissolving. You're not just receiving money. You're ending a karmic cycle. And in doing so, you're making space not just for yourself but for everyone who comes after you. The phrase, "you'll be drowning in money," isn't hyperbole. It's a reminder that when abundance comes to meet readiness, the result is overflow. That overflow is not only for paying bills or chasing status. It's for breathing again. It's for sleeping peacefully. It's for helping someone else without worrying you won't have enough. It's for creating something that matters. It's for choosing freely, without being held hostage by survival. But let's bring this down to earth for a moment. If you've been living paycheck to paycheck, or if you've been holding your breath while opening your bank app, this might sound impossible. That's okay. It's normal to feel skeptical when you've known struggle longer than you've known stability. But that's exactly why this shift is so sacred. Because it doesn't require you to earn it in the way you were taught. It only asks you to allow it. So here's a practice I recommend, something small, but deeply powerful. Take a pen and write down 3 moments in your life where you almost gave up, but didn't. 3 situations where you showed up for yourself, even when no one else did. Now, thank yourself for those moments. Not in your head, out loud. That gratitude isn't a ritual. It's a frequency adjustment. It's you reminding your nervous system that you're no longer in crisis. That you are safe to receive now. Abundance doesn't arrive because we hustle harder. It arrives when we stop pushing it away. And for many of us, we've been pushing it away by believing we weren't worthy, or that we had to suffer first, or that money would somehow make us selfish. But those were borrowed beliefs. They never belonged to you. You've done enough. You are enough. And what's coming for you now, this wealth, this relief, this permission to exhale, is not a reward for effort. It's a reflection of who you've become. So when I say you'll be drowning in money, I mean that the tide has turned. The floodgates are opening. And for the first time in a long time, you're not fighting the current. You're finally moving with it. Sometimes the feeling is so subtle, Leo, you barely notice it until it repeats. That sudden chill on your skin when no wind is blowing. A song that plays at just the right moment. The soft flicker of a light bulb, the faint scent of something familiar but out of place. These aren't coincidences. They're cues. Nudges from a presence that's been walking beside you for longer than you realize. Not to interfere. Not to control. But to protect. To remind you that you're not doing any of this alone. I know it sounds unusual to say someone is watching over you. It can even feel unsettling at first, especially if you've spent most of your life learning to rely on no one but yourself. But what if I told you that being watched, in this case, isn't about being judged or scrutinized? It's about being cared for in a way you may not have known you needed. There's a quiet force surrounding you right now, one that doesn't ask for your attention but keeps showing up anyway, through whispers in the mundane, through patterns too precise to be random. Astrologically, this makes sense. Mercury is in Virgo, forming a trine with Uranus, a placement that sharpens our intuition and makes even the smallest energetic shifts feel loud. It's the kind of cosmic alignment that opens the curtain just a little wider so you can sense the world beyond your five senses. And that world is busy with activity. You may not be able to name it, but you've felt it, that comforting warmth during your lowest moments, the way clarity comes when you're on the verge of making a decision. These are all ways the presence speaks, not in words, but in energy. This presence could be an ancestor whose name you don't remember but whose love flows through your veins. It could be a teacher you never met in this life, but who understands your soul like an old friend. It could even be a future version of yourself, watching from beyond time, cheering you on. There are layers to this life that logic can't decode, but your heart knows how to recognize love, even when it arrives silently. And I want to be clear, this isn't about superstition. This is about energetic awareness. About expanding your understanding of support. You've worked hard to become who you are. You've survived more than people know. But strength doesn't mean you never need anyone. Sometimes, the strongest thing you can do is admit you're being held, even when you can't see the hands. So I invite you to try something simple right now. Place your hand over your heart. Close your eyes for just a moment. And instead of asking for answers, just say, I am being watched with love, not with doubt. Say it again if you need to. Let it land. This is not an affirmation for the sake of routine. This is a gentle truth your nervous system has been waiting to hear. You may start to notice the signs more clearly after this. The subtle syncs, the timing of a call or message, the strange but soothing coincidences. Don't dismiss them. You don't need to explain them to anyone else. You only need to allow yourself to believe that care doesn't always arrive with fanfare. Sometimes, it just shows up in the background, steady, quiet, and faithful. Like love itself. And when you start to trust that presence, your energy softens. You don't carry the world on your shoulders the same way. You begin to make decisions not out of fear, but out of alignment. You become less reactive, more receptive. And that shift, that's when life begins to meet you with ease instead of resistance. This isn't about fantasy, Leo. It's about finally realizing you were never abandoned, never forgotten, and never truly alone. Not even for a moment. You may not remember exactly when it started, Leo, but at some point along your path, there was a moment, a quiet one, when you started believing that things would always be hard for you. That love would always slip just out of reach. That money would always come in trickles. That no matter how much effort you poured in, something would find a way to pull it back. You wouldn't have called it a curse, of course. That word feels dramatic. But in your heart, you sensed it. A pattern. A loop. A weight that didn't seem to belong to just you, but felt heavy all the same. And now, that weight is lifting. You see, some patterns aren't personal theory inherited. They're born from generations before us who lived in survival mode, who couldn't afford to dream, who loved with fear and worked with desperation. Those imprints don't just vanish. They linger. And if we're not conscious, we carry them like invisible bricks in a backpack we never agreed to wear. But here's the beautiful part. You've reached the part of your journey where you're not just carrying it, you're re-clearing it. Astrologically, this moment speaks volumes. The sun's trine to Pluto signals a personal revolution. This isn't a minor shift in circumstance. It's a collapse of something outdated that lived within you for far too long. Think of the Tower card in tarot not as destruction, but as necessary truth. It's the moment the facade crumbles and the foundation is exposed. And alongside it comes the sun clarity, joy, freedom. But not the kind of joy you get from outside validation. This is the joy of remembering who you were before life made you doubt your worth. That's what's happening now. The so-called curse that's being broken. It's not just superstition or poetic language. It's real, energetic residue from old belief systems, some your own, some passed down. Beliefs like, I have to earn love, or rich people are bad, or I'm not meant for more. Those thoughts aren't facts. They're imprints. And when you're finally willing to look at them not with shame, but with compassion, you begin to reclaim your freedom. Let me offer you something practical. Take a moment today and write a letter. Not to a person, but to the energy of that old cycle. Write to the curse, if you want to call it that. Tell it what it taught you. Tell it how long it stayed. And most importantly, tell it you're done. Burn the letter afterward safely, of course. The fire isn't just symbolic. It activates a response in your body and your subconscious. It marks an ending. It tells your nervous system, we're not living there anymore. This isn't spiritual fluff. This is inner recalibration. It's the work people avoid because it asks for emotional honesty, not just positivity. But Leo, you've got the courage to do it. That fire inside you isn't just passion, it's purification. And it's that same fire that's burning down the walls between you and the life you know is waiting on the other side. The reason this matters so deeply is because once you break a pattern, you don't just change your life, you change the lives of those who come after you. You become the pivot point in your lineage. The one who said, enough. The one who decided that the story gets to end differently here. And if you're still doubting whether it's real, look around. Look at the synchronicities. Look at how your body relaxes when you finally give yourself permission to believe you're not cursed, you're chosen. The patterns that kept you stuck were loud, but this truth, it's steady. You're not here to carry what isn't yours. You're here to set it down. And now, you finally have. It often happens like this, Leo. The moment you stop chasing is the same moment something finally begins to move toward you. That may feel contradictory to everything you've been taught: push harder, be impressive, prove your worth. But that's not how love works. And it's certainly not how alignment works. Sometimes, the magic happens when you exhale, when you stop trying to be what you think they want, and instead just become more of who you truly are. That's when both love and abundance find you gently, but unmistakably. You've likely known a kind of love that made you perform. Maybe you overextended. You played the role of the strong one, the caregiver, the one who could handle everything without asking for much. Maybe you tried to earn someone's affection by molding yourself into their version of lovable. And maybe, deep down, a part of you believed that's what love was supposed to feel like: tight, conditional, heavy. But it isn't. That wasn't love. That was fear dressed up as loyalty, or validation disguised as connection. What's coming into your life now is different. It doesn't arrive with a checklist or require you to sacrifice your authenticity. It meets you where you are: your flaws, your fire, your fatigue, your fullness. And for the first time, you won't feel like you have to edit yourself to be safe in someone's heart. You'll realize that real love, the kind that heals rather than drains, feels spacious. You don't have to run after it. It walks beside you. Naturally. Quietly. Completely. Astrologically, this is a time when Venusian energy is making a gentle sweep across your chart. Venus isn't just the planet of romance, it governs our self-worth, our ability to receive, our sense of beauty in both relationships and resources. And when love and money flow in at the same time, it's not a coincidence. It's a sign that you've shifted something inside. You've begun to believe, perhaps quietly at first, that you are worthy of more than just survival. You are worthy of ease. What many people don't realize is that love and money are energetically similar. Both require receptivity. Both amplify your life when nurtured consciously. And both will flee if fear, scarcity, or self-doubt runs the show. That's why inner safety matters so much. When you start to feel safe being yourself, not just in public, but in private, in the quiet moments, that's when abundance starts knocking. Love, too. So if you've been noticing that your energy has softened lately, that you're no longer interested in chasing what doesn't feel mutual, know this: you're not giving up, you're leveling up. You're making room. You're creating space not just for someone to enter, but for something to bloom. And not just romantically, financially too. Because you're not divided inside anymore. You're aligned. Here's something simple but powerful I'd invite you to do. Sit with yourself and name one way you've changed how you love yourself or others. Maybe you've stopped apologizing for your needs. Maybe you've started saying no. Maybe you've let go of someone who couldn't meet you where you stood. That's the work. That's the proof. You are healing the parts of you that once begged for crumbs. And in doing so, you're preparing the table for a feast not just of love, but of worth, security, joy. You don't have to choose between romance and success anymore. You're not too much. You're not too late. You're exactly where you need to be for both blessings to arrive, and they will. Because the new version of you, the one who no longer clings to what hurts, is finally safe enough to receive what's real. Let it come. Let it stay. Let yourself be loved. Let yourself prosper. The door is open now. It's not always easy to realize when you're the first in your family to break a cycle. Sometimes, you're so deep in survival mode that you can't even name what you're surviving. But Leo, if you're still listening, still watching, then you need to hear this clearly. You are the one. The one who was born to turn the page. The one who looked around at the lack, the worry, the financial chaos that seemed to follow generation after generation and said, "This ends with me." That's not something small. That's legacy-level work. And it's why things may have felt harder for you than for others. Not because you're cursed, but because you're clearing what others couldn't. You were sent in with more awareness, more inner fire, and more willingness to question what everyone else silently accepted. And that questioning, that refusal to settle for crumbs, is why the floodgates are finally starting to open. Not just for you, but for everyone who will come after you. The date of this message, September 19th, carries the frequency of the number 1 in numerology. That's not just a cute coincidence. That's a signal. The number 1 represents the pioneer. The first. The one who doesn't follow a well-paved road but makes one, sometimes barefoot, sometimes bleeding, always brave. And that's you. Maybe no one told you this growing up. Maybe the people around you were too busy worrying about bills, debt, or how to stretch $1 into a week. Maybe you never had a model of what financial peace looked like. But here's the truth. The lack you were born into is not the lack you're meant to carry forward. And yes, I get it. Money isn't just numbers. It's emotional. It's ancestral. It's layered with guilt, shame, fear, and silence. But just because your family didn't know how to hold abundance doesn't mean you're not allowed to. And just because you've made money mistakes before doesn't mean you're unworthy of a reset. If you've struggled to save, struggled to receive, struggled to feel safe around money, ask yourself this: whose struggle are you still holding? Sometimes, the reason we self-sabotage financially isn't that we're irresponsible. It's because, deep down, we're loyal to the people who didn't have enough. As if thriving would be a betrayal. But what if thriving is the very thing that honors them? What if you rising isn't disrespect, but redemption? That's why this moment is so sacred. You're not just earning a paycheck, you're rewriting a family narrative. And with that comes responsibility. Not to be perfect, but to be conscious. To check in with your spending not just by numbers, but by emotions. Are you buying this because it aligns with your future self, or because you're trying to fill a gap your past never healed? That's the work. That's the deeper layer of financial literacy most people never talk about. There's power in asking the hard questions. In slowing down when you want to swipe the card. In noticing when you're spending to avoid sadness, or to signal something to someone who isn't even paying attention. When you start holding your money like it's energy, like it reflects your boundaries, your values, your healing, everything begins to shift. You don't just have money. You hold it with wisdom. You're not here to live paycheck to paycheck. You're not here to panic every time an unexpected expense comes up. You're here to anchor stability into your bloodline. To be the one who saves, not just for a rainy day, but because your lineage deserves to rest. And maybe no one did that for you. But Leo, you are doing it now. That matters more than you know. So take a breath. Forgive the past. Bless the future. And remind yourself, I'm not breaking tradition, I am building a new one. This time, with peace. This time, with power. This time, with purpose. You don't have to chase money anymore, Leo. You are no longer required to run yourself into the ground trying to prove your worth. You're not here to hustle for crumbs when you were born to live in overflow. That magnetic pull you felt lately? It's not an illusion. It's your own frequency rising. It's the universe responding to the shift you've made internally, the one that no one else may have seen, but you know it happened. You've done the work. Quietly. Consistently. And now, abundance is coming because you're ready to receive it, not because you finally deserve it. You've always deserved it. There's a point in every journey where striving turns into receiving, and you, my dear Leo, have reached that point. You no longer need permission to step into your light. You no longer have to shrink to make others comfortable. The old version of you, the one that begged, chased, and set led, no longer fits. You are the light now. You are the magnet. And the more you recognize that truth, the faster life will mirror it back to you. But let me ask you something. What would change in your life if you truly believed you didn't have to fight for what was already yours? How would you carry yourself? How would you speak, move, love, rest? What decisions would you stop postponing if you knew the resources were already on the way? These are not rhetorical questions. They're invitations. Because the future you dream of isn't waiting somewhere far away. It's quietly knocking, asking if you're ready to stop surviving and start allowing. And maybe today is the day you say yes. Maybe this is the moment you stop apologizing for wanting more. Maybe this is where you begin trusting that the abundance you sense coming isn't a trick or a tease, it's the response to a life you've already paid for in full through lessons, heartbreak, and resilience. Maybe this is where everything changes. Not because someone gave you permission, but because you finally gave it to yourself. So I invite you, right now, to anchor this energy. If even a part of you feels this message was meant for you, say it out loud or type it below in the comments. I am worthy of lasting wealth and unconditional love. And if you felt a subtle presence guiding or watching over you lately, share who you think it might be. Is it a loved one who's passed? A stranger who's shown up at just the right time? Or maybe it's been you, watching yourself grow into someone unstoppable. If you're ready to claim what's yours, comment 888 as a signal to the universe and to yourself that your portal to prosperity is open now. Thank you for sharing your time and energy with me today. Every like, every comment, every subscriber helps grow this space into a sanctuary where messages like this can find the people who need them most. You are a part of that. You are a part of eternal mindfulness. And from the bottom of my heart, I'm grateful you're here. Stay with me, because what's coming next is just the beginning.